Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Morley.
And today, Danny and I are diving into feeling special, or shall I say wanting to feel special?
Yeah. I want to feel special.
I was just making an Instagram video on this right now, and I couldn't finish it in a minute and 30 seconds. But, I think for me, I birthed these programs when I was really little. So growing up, I always had a lot of cousins and everything like that. And I knew really young that I wasn't great at anything because I wasn't told that I was great at anything, right? So anything that I ever did, whether it was athleticism or art or creativity or even being smart in school, I was just never told that I was great at anything. And so I birthed these programs of unworthiness and inferiority when I was little. So I'm unworthy because I'm not great at anything. I'm subpar at everything. And I'm inferior because if I'm not good at anything, then I'm less than other people. And that has been carried into my life in so many different facets. And we'll get there. But yeah, it got triggered big time yesterday.
How did it get triggered?
So I obviously, all of my colleagues at Master of Self University, we're a different type of bunch because we are all people who are doing the real work on themselves to connect back to their innate divine power. And so in real time, we have something called a coaches forum where we literally meet 3 times a week. And not only that, we're all working with each other throughout the entire week. And then I date you, who's also a mystical life coach. And so
constantly healing, constantly elevating, constantly pushing and challenging each other in a loving way to see what's hiding in our blind spot so we can heal.
Yeah. And so yesterday, basically, I got triggered by just hearing of how one of our colleagues is really becoming more powerful and really is connecting to themselves. And as soon as I heard this, I just got triggered into all these programs, and I could hear my inner child, my wounded inner child being well, what about me? And I want to be special. And why can't I be powerful? And what's the matter with me? And then I started going into a lot of shaming myself and judging myself. And there is the I want to feel special program. That's just the umbrella of all of these programs. And yeah, it was not fun to feel that because I know that's not the truth of who I am. And I know that it's the ego that wants to feel special. And it's just this really deep wound of feeling like I'm just not good at anything.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on it then. It's the ego just really wants to feel special. So can you go into what it is that you've experienced through this wound from your own personal journey of why does your ego want to feel special? And maybe you've already covered it.
I just feel like my worth comes from whether or not I'm successful or I'm great at anything. And so it showed up a lot in my 15 years of being in the entertainment industry of I'm here now, everybody see how special I am. And please tell me that I'm great. Please tell me that I'm talented. And every single time somebody would tell me I'm talented or I would book a gig or something like that, that wound would just my ego would just feel so good. You are special and you are great and you are all of these things. And then when somebody was better than me or somebody got a compliment or somebody booked a gig that was, whatever that I didn't get, I would get triggered into you're nothing, you're unworthy, you're shit, you're not good enough. There's nothing special about you. And then I would just spiral into all this shame and self-judgment.
And when you feel into that feeling that it feels good, does it still feel good now when you feel that you think you're special?
What do you mean?
So you said that it feels good when you felt special.
Yeah.
Do you still feel the same? Do you still think that it feels good that when you feel special?
Yes, because the wound is still there.
Fair enough.
But now I know the work. It's like, first of all, like that's never going to be sustainable, right? People constantly telling you you're special, you're special, you're special. If you don't feel that within yourself, right, it doesn't mean anything. And also this whole thing of like feeling special, like I really had to feel into like what way of oneness am I lacking right now, and I'm lacking the way of humility. So this, I really would love to read like a passage for you guys, because like when I read this, I was like, okay, this is exactly what it is. All right. So this is what Fiori writes in the 20 Universal Ways of Oneness. Okay. To earn the way of humility requires you to stop trying to be special, and certainly to stop trying to be right about everything. This can be a tremendous challenge for many, since we have all been pushed to believe and promote our specialness. When you try to prove that you're special, your ego is the one in charge of running your life and your behaviors. Only ego carries the incompetence and low self-worth vibes that pushes him to try to prove to everyone how special he is. A person who is aligned with her soul knows that she is no more special than any other person on the planet, and in that she is also very special in her uniquely manifested form, gifts, talents, and journey of lessons that she must learn and master in this lifetime. Specialness comes from the illusion of the superior-inferior program. You either believe you're so special that makes you somehow better than others, superior program, or you feel that you're not good enough, and so you try very hard to prove to others how special you are, inferior program. Both sides of this dualistic coin are ridiculous. To function in humility is to no longer function in the ego. And man, that hit.
Yeah, I play both sides of that coin all the time. It's so interesting because when you hear that, I'm like, oh well, maybe I'm either think that I'm superior and special, or maybe I think that I don't. For me, and
me too.
Yeah, I carry both.
Yeah.
There was a part of my childhood where I was told, like, oh, literally, I was told you will be good at anything you do, and so that's like, oh, so I can just do anything, I'll be good at it. Like, amazing. I must be good at everything then. And then that like leads this belief of like, oh, I can do no wrong. I'm just good no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the permissive parenting that then gets brought in there, and the enmesh parenting as well, that creates a very entitled child. But then at the same time, the wounds that I accumulated as a kid led me to believe that I am inferior, and I've gone through that a lot in other podcasts, so I don't have to go into that now. So it's just interesting to hear you read that and see how, you know, you can still have both sides of the inferior superior coin.
Yeah.
And same for you?
Oh yeah, same for me. And you know, you and I talk about this a lot, but like I have to hammer this in, because what a interesting little world that you and I live in, because we are literally surrounded by people who are on the path of becoming mystics.
Yeah.
Okay. So we see in real time people tapping more and more into their psychic gifts, right? And so what it brings for me, and I probably could speak for you too, is like, well, why am I not psychic? And where's my gifts? And like, why can't I see through the realms and the cosmos and dimensions, and like see through this and see through that, and be able to tell you this and be able to tell you that, and tap into this and tap into that? And I'm surrounded by people who can do that, which brings up this program even more. Like, you are nothing. Like, there's nothing great about you. And then begins, you know, the shame cycle of like, yeah, like you are nothing, and like you're not special, and like what's the point of you? Like, that's a big one that really hurts me, of like, what's the point of you? Like, anything you go into, Ellie, no matter what realm, whether it's Hollywood or whether it's the path of the mystic, you're not great. And you know, that if I was really a person that was like 10 times weaker than, you know, but than I am, like I would have probably left every single thing where I didn't feel special, where I didn't feel important. And thank God that I have a fire in me that goes, hey, Ellie, and an awareness of like, those are just programs right now. And it's not about being special. It's about like honoring divine timing for my soul, right? But also honoring the fact that like we're all different, and that's what makes us so beautiful and so great. We are, just like she says, like, it's not about being special. It's, we are all special because we come in here with so many unique gifts and differences, and that's the path that I want to be on, of like being able to look at a colleague, or you too, like, you know, when you share stories of like how like more tapped in you are, I can feel myself going, well, what about me? And like, I want to be tapped in, like, when's it my turn? And it's like, then you can hear that little kid in that.
Yeah.
And it's like, instead of listening to you and go, oh my God, like how wonderful, and I'm so excited for you, and then like alchemizing in real time whatever's coming up for me, because then I can't be in presence and I can't be of unconditional love when you are sharing, or when a colleague of mine is moving through such an intense, like exponential, rise in her power.
Yeah, and then on the other side, I definitely have found myself, the more that I'm healing, tapping into my sensitivities, and I'm able to feel energy in ways that I've never been able to before. When I'm working with clients, I can feel what they're moving through as we're connected, which has been really wild. I can literally feel emotions come up in the clients that I'm working with, which is great because I know what's happening in them. I'm fully connected with them energetically. But I've noticed over the years, as this like gift is kind of opening up, there's parts of my ego which try and come in and be like, see, you are special, you are good. And got to constantly keep that in check, because and that's the beauty of the community of MSU, is we will all call each other out for stuff like that, where the ego wants to come in and make ourselves feel special. Like, the work is to recognize that, not to shame ourselves, because I did that before. I was like, oh, my ego wants to come in and make me feel special. But then am I shaming myself for doing that? Because that's not how you heal it. It's, oh, I recognize my ego just showed up right now. There's a part of me that wants to feel special. I best give that part of me some love right now. Hey, like, that's no reason to create more separation.
You also do this thing where I'll go, that's amazing. Like, I cannot believe you can feel as deeply as you do. And you'll go, yeah, but it's not like a psychic gift. And it's like, everybody can do it. So you bring yourself down so quickly. And like, that's another program. You think that's inferiority? Of like, what is that program that you do where you just quickly bring yourself down when it's like, no, it's a beautiful gift.
Yeah, I guess like disregard, low self-worth.
Yes,
coming up there.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a part of me that's like, that's true. Like, everyone can open themselves up energetically.
Yeah.
Obviously, what everyone comes into this world in terms of how sensitive they are, that is their nervous system. You can't change that. And you can open up more and more and more through this incarnation. But, your set of sensitivities are what they are. And I've had to really accept that mine are pretty sensitive.
Yeah.
And that is a gift, because for a long time it didn't feel like a gift. But that's where the specialness comes in. It's like, oh, you are special. And it's like, come on, ego.
Yeah.
Take a back seat for once.
Yeah. Because you can feel the energy of like wanting to feel special. Like, there was nothing about it that feels powerful.
Right. And that's why I was coming back to earlier. I was like, does it feel good?
Oh, right. No, it doesn't.
When you actually awaken to what it feels like when your ego feels special, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It may feel good because there's so much unworthiness and so much like inferiority in there, that the moment we get to feel just a little bit special, that it does feel good, but it only feels good because we're coming from a place of such low level of consciousness. And when we actually elevate beyond that, we can feel that energy of specialness. It's not a good feeling. It's icky, it's gross. It's like, oh, that's the ego right there.
Because I can feel in other people when they feel special, and I always get like the ick. I'm like, oh, and it's not judgment. It's just like, I can feel that because I have that in me, like that feeling of like, I'm so special. And it's like, and it doesn't mean anything. It always reminds me of just like when you like have sand in like your hands and it just like falls through the cracks. Like, every time somebody would compliment me, like during my, like long time in Hollywood, like every time I'd be like, you're so talented. I'd be like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then they turn around and walk away. And I could feel myself being like, wait, give me more. It's like, it's never going to fill you, Ellie. And why do you feel the need to want to be special? And I know it's just that little kid that just like always wanted to be told, like, am I something? Like, tell me that I'm something. Yeah. When you live in a world that tells you that you're deemed worthy on whether or not you're good at things. Like, they praise you if you're smart. They praise you if you're talented. They praise you if you're artistic. They praise you if you're athletic. And when you're somebody that is not exceptional in any of those things, of course, inevitably, you're going to create a program of, well, I'm nothing and I suck.
Yeah, and it's interesting how you and I both were drawn towards two industries that kind of reflected these certain wounds. me working in luxury hospitality, it's all about like making the guests special, about giving them this special experience. And there's this kind of like weird, if you perceive it this way, you can, there's like a class system of like, the wait staff serving the higher classes,
right?
And then if everyone is running the programs of inferior superior, obviously that's how you see it and that's how you feel it. And I was for a long time. There was many periods of my career there where I wasn't, but then certain people will come and make you feel inferior, and then you're playing into that inferior superior dynamic. But at the same time, you realize, oh, it's nothing to do with how much money somebody has that makes them superior or inferior. It's who they are. It's what they do with that. And that was one of the key takeaways from working in that industry, and seeing some really like meeting some really amazing people. I think there's a lot for me like tied up in of worth around like money, and that was based around the industry that I worked in, and maybe my upbringing as well.
While you're talking, all this stuff came up for me of like, I spent such a long time of my career being around celebrities,
right,
and being around their teams as well. Okay. And like very intertwined with the music industry and the acting industry. And something that I struggled with a lot was like every time I'd interview somebody, they were special.
Yeah.
And I was not.
Yeah, exactly.
I was the person that was there to make them shine, to make them even more special, to feel special. And what I struggled with all the time was like I would come home and I would just feel so drained, and I would feel so sad because like, and that was my wounded parts coming up of like, why do I do this job where I'm less than them? And my job is to make them greater and greater and greater and keep me lower, lower and lower. And now I can see it was like, yes, it was that wounded part of me, but it was also I was playing out superiority and inferiority, and I was giving into their programs and inflating their egos. It was a mess.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, that's the same thing for me, working behind the bar, like trying to create this, make the guests feel special. They can do no wrong. The customer's always right.
Mm-hmm.
We do what we can, whatever we can do. We move mountains to make sure that the guest is happy. That's luxury hospitality. And you go home at the end of the day, just like you're like so drained from just giving everything and trying to create this like experience. And then you realize like through doing this work, oh, like I can still do that same job and do the same thing, but I can come at a very different energy. I don't have to come from treating now, which is difficult because actually management will probably wouldn't like that if you're coming from a place of equality, because the whole point is you do whatever you can to make this guest happy, right? But we really don't have to play into that inferior superior thing. We don't have to make other people special. When we choose not to make ourselves special, and we really live but by the way of equality, which we've got to become before we even reach humility, right?
Yeah.
And so going back to the trigger that you had this morning, how are you doing with it now? You worked through kind of what came up?
Yeah, I mean, I spent some time with my inner child in the morning, and I could just feel like I just remember myself like I was just it's like sensitive, like chubby little cute little kid. And I would try like everything, like, Korean school. I was never good at Korean like my friends were. So they always kept me like in lower grades, or like in piano, like I'd be like top 10, but I was always on like the lower top 10 of piano. Or even when I did karate, like I could never break like a brick that they had and things like that. Like all these memories were flooding in of like everything I tried, I was never good at. And then on top of that, like I was like this chubby little kid, and like everybody would always comment on my weight. So it was like everything about me, I could just feel my inner child was like, everything about me isn't good. Like nothing about me is great. And like, I don't know what's wrong with me, or like, why can't I be good at something? And so I just had to spend a lot of time with her and open her and let her love everything that was coming up, because I can feel how deeply she feels like the only way that she's deemed worthy, or the only way that she can be seen or loved by the world, is if she is good at something. And so yeah, that's what I had to go into this morning. And then just like really honoring my soul too. Of the truth of the matter is that when we compare our journeys to anybody else, we're just dishonoring our souls, right? And I really just want to be in this place of, there's a lot of trauma that I'm working through. There's a lot of things, and no matter how long it takes for me to get through all of it, is how long it takes. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm learning truly how to detach from timing, and like needing it to be now, and needing it to be this, and needing to be that. And it's actually a great gift to see all of my colleagues and my partner grow as fast as they are, because it just allows me to keep going into this wound and just keep loving myself as it comes up, because I can't control what the timing of this looks like. And I can only quote unquote control, I hate that word, like just of how much I work on myself. And that's it.
And I know this is something we've spoke about before, but why do you deem people with psychic gifts as superior?
Ooh, so that was something that I really went through in my life too, where I started having all these psychic friends, and I was like, oh my God, they're better than me because they're more tapped in, and like they can do things, or they can see things, they can hear things that I can't.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can, that means I'm less than them. And I gave all my power away to them. And then it bit me in the ass. And I had to learn the hard way that it does not matter how many gifts you have online. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It matters, like, you know, how much you work on yourself, and like what your heart looks like in terms of like, you know, how you show up in the world and how you treat people.
Yeah, I think for you and I, who don't have all these like really wild psychic gifts online
Yet,
it's really easy for us to kind of like see them as special. They are special, they really are, because we don't experience it.
Yeah.
But then it's back to the energy. It's the energy that we attach on. It's like, oh well, yes, that is special, but that doesn't mean that they're superior, or I'm inferior, or that we may not get certain gifts like that come online. Who knows? You just got to keep healing and elevating, and you'll find out what's under that.
Yeah. Because even the energy of like putting people on a pedestal, like that's not equality at all.
Yeah. And
that's like such a like a third dimensional paradigm. Like I saw this clip today of Lady Gaga and Al Pacino were on a red carpet together, and like one of the paparazzi like screams like, take off your sunglasses, and Lady Gaga goes, he's Al Pacino, okay? And I was like, there it is. That's superiority. Like, you guys are better because you're celebrities, or you're, and I had that deeply ingrained in me, and being in the business for so long, that like, because these people are famous and they're rich, they're better than me. They're more important than me. And it's like, no, they're not.
Yep. That's the exact same thing in luxury hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
Man, like, yeah, I can do whatever I want because I have the penthouse suite, and I am spending a lot of money to be here, so I can treat all of the staff like shit.
Yeah.
I can break all of the rules. I can even ask for illegal things, and the management team will try and do them, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because the rules are supposed to be, if it's legal, ethical, or moral, if it's illegal, unethical, or immoral, you don't do it. But they still encourage people to bend the rules in certain luxury hotels, which is crazy because it's illegal. But that's the world we live in, because everybody is so afraid to upset people who are superior.
Yeah.
I guess because they'll lose business.
Yeah.
It's all this, like, there's scarcity there. There's all this fear there. There's no integrity. There's no like heart-centeredness in business these days. Not all businesses, obviously. The world's changing. We're elevating. But the ones that I used to work in, and I know for sure the industry you were in, like, there's a supreme lack of integrity and humility.
Yeah. And that's why, like, it's so exciting to leave the fallen earth, the old earth, you know. It's so exciting as we're exiting out of that, because all of those paradigms and all of that just like needs to be thrown out, because it's
toxic.
Yeah, it's toxic and it's gross, and that's why the world is as it is. And so, you know, Rachel always talks about how, you know, going into the fifth dimension is not passive. It's not just poof, we're in the fifth dimension, here we are. It's, we got to do the work individually, and that starts within me, of where do I run inequality and superiority and inferiority, and where does my ego get in the way, and what do I need to heal and unblock and unclog so that I can just come back and connect to deeply more to my power in my heart.
Yeah, I think there's this common misconception that like the fifth dimension is coming, and it's like it's going to be this place that we're going to like step into this magical cloud and go up to, and that's not what it is. It's in our heart, and that means everything in the world has to transform, and that, as you said, is an active process. So it's how do we take this old third dimensional business model of treating people as inferior, superior, and infuse it with the ways of oneness, infuse it with heart-centeredness, and create an organization that benefits all customers, employees, that is in harmony like throughout the whole thing. And that's what that world is going to be. That's how we elevate out of the fallen world. It's not by separating ourselves from it. It's about transforming it from the inside out.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. And so it's just, it's exciting. And also, it's painful to feel the wounded inner child, it really is, because she really has this deep belief that she's nothing. But, the more that I go in and I connect with her and I connect her back to herself and we do the work, it's like, man, I just can't wait to be in that place where like, I'm not running these programs, even though I'm in surrender and presence with what is. One day when those programs are completely gone, it'll be a whole new reality for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all run these programs of wanting to be special. Like if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, oh no, I do that. Yeah, we all do.
Yeah.
You know why? Because we're still in our ego. Our ego is there to have this experience of separation. And the more that we heal, we come back to wholeness. So it just means it's nothing to shame yourselves about or shame anyone about. It's like, oh, and feel deeply that I'm in my ego right now.
Yeah.
I want to be special. I've got some work to do. Great. Let me sit down. Let me love the little kid that's in there, that's showing up right now. And let me come back to myself. That's all that it is.
Yeah. And, it's like sometimes when I think about the people that are like doing beautiful things or are really beautifully in their power, like let's just say like Rachel or like this woman that we follow, like Elizabeth April, like there's such humility, so much humility in there.
Yeah.
And like, to people who run these programs, they're like, oh man, these people are special. Like they're so this. And it's like, when you feel into them, it's like, it's just pure humility, and they don't run those programs. And so, it's just something that I really like admire. And I'm like, all right, I'm getting there. I just need to do the work to get there.
Me too. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
It's hard though on this path, because especially the more that you evolve spiritually, mystically, as you walk this path, there definitely is a certain level of like the spiritual ego which can get formed. Of like, oh yeah, I've reached a place of elevation where I definitely am at a high level of consciousness. But then if you have any of the inferior, superior, the duality, separation still in there, it's going to come alive, and we just have to keep doing the work to see it and recognize, oh yeah, there's the spiritual ego. Yep, that's going to come. That's a natural byproduct of elevating. And now let me do the work to heal that and actually elevate, not elevate from my mind and my ego.
Yeah. And remembering that there is no, I've graduated, school's done.
Yeah.
We're infinite beings, which means your evolution is infinite. So every time you start getting comfortable, check yourself.
Check yourself.
Yeah, because there's ways to go. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this podcast. If you want to work with us and do the work that we guide, offer, and teach at Master Self University, set up a free consultation with us to join a group class, work with us one-on-one. Check out Rachel's book, Mason's Way, The 20 Universal Ways of Oneness, on Amazon. There's also a digital course that accompanies that very beautifully, that goes through every single way of oneness. And if you love this episode, please share, like, subscribe. It really helps the podcast and helps us to do it for free. And we just appreciate all of you.
Yep. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.